Sometimes the best stories in golf aren't found on tour. You'll find them at the back of the range. And here's your host, Ben Adelberg.
And once again, welcome to the Back of the Range. I am your host, Ben Adelberg. This is episode 204. As many of you already know, I'm on the road. This is the first leg of 4 of my month-long odyssey around the country, following the little white ball being hit by the best amateurs in the world. First stop, Country Club of North Carolina for the U.S. Junior Amateur. This is my first U.S. Junior, and I can tell you that it will not be my last. Getting to see the best juniors in the world and how they move the golf ball off the tee and around the greens, it's absolutely stunning. And this is coming from me. I've seen some bombers at the highest levels of the game. These kids are the next wave. I'm getting ready to head to Chicago for the Western Amateur, but before leaving, I wanted to make sure to get another episode out and to also thank the USGA and CCNC for their hospitality this week. 2 first-class organizations. Make sure you are following both of them on social media. Support these organizations that do so much for junior golf. Over the next month, as I said, I'll be traveling quite a bit, so the intros to these episodes are going to be on the short side. Please hold your applause. I'm just trying to find a manageable balance between covering tournaments on site while also posting episodes. You might also hear a couple subtle audio differences. Remember, I'm not in the home studio, but I will be doing my best to make sure that you have clear audio and fresh new episodes this month at the Back of the Range. One of the standouts this week at the U.S. Junior was John Gough. You might remember that he played on the 2019 GB&I Walker Cup team at Hoylake. Well, he's here now in the States, and he will be attending Charlotte University and will be playing his college golf there. He lost in 20 holes to Cohen Trolio yesterday in an incredible match. And if you remember, it was Connor's older brother, John, that picked up the win at the Palmetto Amateur a couple weeks ago. I've seen a lot of John, first at Merido, then at the Palmetto, and coming off of his dominant 5-shot victory at Palmetto Golf Club, I figured it's about time to have him as a guest here at the Back of the Range. John is originally from Slough, England. It's about 90 minutes from Royal St. George's. He played 5 seasons for the 49ers at Charlotte. Don't worry, we dove into how he made it to North Carolina from the UK. That's a great story. We spoke a little bit about the Open Championship. This episode was recorded during that championship. We also discussed his 5-year maturation process in college, how his game improved, and how he's improved off the golf course. And I have to thank Carson Ownby, his teammate from Charlotte. He really did give me some nuggets of intel that are sprinkled into this episode. This is a fun one. John is an absolute blast to be around. He doesn't hold back. This is someone that you will want to follow as an amateur, and definitely once he eventually becomes a professional. John, let's get to it. Welcome to the Back of the Range. How are you?
Yeah, we're all good. All good over here.
So you are still in the States, following up your victory at the Palmetto Amateur. And I wanted to, before we talk about golf, and there's a lot to chat about, but if I remember correctly, and I'm just going to get this sore subject out of the way early, I believe your English football team lost to Italy in the UEFA final. Ooh. I know. We're going to rip the Band-Aid off really quick, and we'll be over with it. But the reason I want to bring this up, so they lose in PKs. I saw that live. I don't even know where you were when you were watching it, but there's going to be a correlation between this and golf. So walk me through how you were watching that final, where you were watching it.
So I actually was back in Charlotte, and I only just got back, so I was in my apartment. I had a teammate over watching it with me, seeing as all of the boys were away playing tournaments. So
sure.
It was kind of nice. I didn't have to not only explain how soccer's played or football, actually, not soccer. Anyone that's English listening to this will kill me if I call it soccer. So without explaining to everyone how it's played, I could kind of be amped up and everything by myself, and just with Trey Tobias, one of my teammates, who I've lived with, so he kind of gets the gist of how important it is.
Sure.
But yeah, it was a tough one. It was a ride of emotions. I was trying to explain to him how in golf I don't really I don't think that anything in golf, as all golfers listening to this would agree, it gets pretty nervy at times, golf, but I don't think anything could stand up for taking a penalty for your country to win a tournament or to lose a tournament, as it was. But yeah, it was good fun watching it. It was a ride of emotions for sure.
Yeah, and you're like you said, there really isn't anything like that in golf. Obviously the Olympics have been kind of reborn for golf, so to speak. So I don't think there is the emotional attachment right now for golf. I guess I'm thinking about, I'm thinking if you're a Greg Norman fan and you're watching him slowly just, leak oil in 96 at the Masters, or, Shane Lowry, winning the Open Championship 2 years ago in Ireland. I'm thinking that must be like if he missed like a 2-footer to win, something like that. I mean, I guess that's the only explanation I can think of.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with it, but I would say from playing football growing up, I'd say a penalty in them circumstances, which I've never experienced, would feel a lot longer than the 2-foot part.
Exactly right. Ocean to the professionals that want to win it. I mean, I know that everyone wants to win a major. I mean, before we get into your career, I just couldn't help but think about, there seems to be such like a romantic notion about winning the Open that I don't see with the U.S. Open as much. Has that just been part of the part of the makeup of anyone that gets into the game in the UK?
I believe so. It's the history of it all. I mean, every however many years it comes to St Andrews, the home of golf, and it's got like a special kind of vibe around it, really. And growing up, everyone wants to win the Open, and obviously the course they're at this week is not only a great place, but yeah, it's about, I think, 45 to an hour from my house. So I was lucky enough to play it there in the Amateur Championships a few years back.
Wow.
It's a pretty special place.
So how many courses have you played, to your knowledge, that are on the Open Rota? I know you've played St Andrews. We'll talk about that. So now we've learned that you've played Royal St George's. Have you played any other courses that are on the Rota?
I have. I've played Birkdale, Royal Birkdale, which is one of my favorites.
Okay.
In fact, it's an insane place there. It's crazy how good that golf course is in conditions, whether it's wind or no wind. I'm not too knowledgeable. I'm pretty sure, has Muirfield hosted the Open?
Oh yeah, that's where Mickelson won it.
Of course, yeah. So I played Muirfield, which is another insane place to be around, and I actually played the British Boys there, where we got to play Muirfield and the Renaissance Club, where the Scottish Open was played.
Sure.
And they're two incredible golf courses. I played Portrush, Royal County Down.
Oh my gosh!
I've been pretty lucky to get a good few courses.
That's a nice collection. I mean, I've played. I've played the old course, and I've played Carnoustie. So.
Oh, that's a good track. I played there too.
Oh, okay. It's not a competition. Come on now. All right. So we're going to get back to that, and we're going to talk a little bit about St Andrews, because there's another topic, a little topic of the Walker Cup we need to discuss a little bit later on. But I want to give listeners a really good idea of your journey. I mean, you grew up, like we just said, in Slough, England, which, like I said, 20 miles west of London. But your collegiate golf, you've played 5 years at Charlotte in North Carolina. So that's a big, there's a big journey right there to get from, just outside of London to Charlotte, United States. So I guess talk to me a little bit about how you got into the game in England, and maybe a little bit about what your junior golf experience was like.
Yeah, of course. So initially my family, no one played golf. We live right beside a golf course. We live right beside a few golf courses, but no one was into it or anything. And I actually went to school in London because my dad would work early mornings, and so would my mum, where she actually worked in London as well. And we had a childminder, so a babysitter.
Sure, yeah.
And it was my babysitter's husband that actually got me into it, just in the back garden, hitting plastic clubs, plastic balls over the fence in the backyard.
Perfect.
Into the park nearby, and then we would walk around and collect them. And I think that's how I just got into it. And then obviously once I got into it through there, I went to the golf course. I was quite lucky. The golf course that I lived right beside, Wexham Park Golf Centre, it is a hub for junior golf, really. Every Saturday morning there was like a little roll-up that you'd go with your friends, and I was probably only 5 or 6 years old, but I went to them until I was about 8 or 9. And that's where I met my coach, who still coaches me actually to this day.
Oh, wow.
He had my first lesson, Dan Rees from Wexham, and yeah, I just fell in love with it there, and it brought me to many places around the world. So I'm grateful for my journey.
And that's amazing because, and as you can imagine, with a lot of the stories that have been shared here at the back of the range, you hear stories from, my dad was a teaching pro, or my grandfather got me into it, or I played with my dad every day, or my mom every day. There's all these different stories. There's really no one particular path to playing this game. And that's great. So you're kind of saying that if it wasn't for the babysitter, the child, the childminder, however you want to call it, there's a really good chance that you may never have found golf.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm very grateful to both of them as well for getting me into it.
Incredible. So I have to ask, over here in the States, obviously there's the AJGA, which is probably the biggest junior golf tour. And then there's several other ones around the country. And then obviously each state golf association, whether it's Florida or it's North Carolina, they all have great junior programs and a lot of areas of competition. Talk to me about BB&O golf.
BB&O golf. That is that's what got me started into competition and match play, and so we do county golf back in England.
Yeah.
So each county plays against each other and so forth. But we had like a run in the county kind of tournament, and it was called the Futures Tour.
Okay.
And that kick-started not only me, but all of my friends that I know from around where I'm from, and getting us into events and prepping us for bigger and better events. And that's where I met my another coach that I only have 2 coaches, Rob Watts. He was the county coach for BB&O, and that's where I met him also, who's taught me since I was 12. So it's opened a lot of doors for me, taught me a lot of things, and I've enjoyed that a lot as well, because it taught me how to play match play, how all the Europeans, that's kind of our reputation on the Americans. We play match play a lot more than you guys do.
Sure.
And I think it's all down to county golf, to be honest, because we used to play I remember when I was probably about 12, we used to play triangular matches as well. So we would play, I would be playing in a threesome, and I'd be playing this guy and this guy. So
right.
I have a 3-foot putt is good for one guy, but the other guy makes me putt it. So yeah, we had it all.
So did you have a lot of friends that played golf just casually? Because I think here it's, I can't speak obviously for every single junior, but it's hard to kind of break through that wall of just playing for fun and then playing for competition and being tested and being, going up against someone else. And hey, you're going to lose obviously more than you're going to win. But did you have a lot of friends that just went out and played and weren't really serious about it? Or did everyone kind of fall into that mode of, hey, this is how you play this sport. You compete. You just don't go whack the ball around and go find it.
I would say I only had a couple of friends that didn't play it competitively, because everyone that was kind of in my friend group in golf and everything, we were all, everyone that I grew up playing golf with was extremely competitive.
Right.
And at a young age, I'd actually say we were all playing golf for competition. I think it was just then when you get to the late teens and stuff, you see people obviously going different pathways, and maybe like golf isn't for me, or I don't want to play it competitively for the rest of my life. But most of the people I grew up playing golf with was just purely competitive.
Well, I think that's the only way to do it if you want to get better. That's my opinion. Well, you have this great journey in junior golf, and you've won, U.S. Kids European Championship in 2015, Boys Home International in 2016. Just numerous top tens and several. I mean, T11 in the Boys Am, in 16. So this great junior career. And you follow in, I guess it is kind of a trend. A lot of Europeans are coming over to the States, getting recruited by schools to play collegiate golf, and that's exactly what you did. You jump over from the pond and you come over here, and you end up playing at Charlotte. You are and I guess my question is, what did you know about Charlotte, North Carolina, before a coach, before your coach came over and talked to you?
So it's actually a pretty cool story. As you mentioned, with home internationals there, I played for the England boys squad and for numerous events and stuff. But our coach, his son was actually the assistant at Charlotte. So they kind of, at the time I was 17, it was a very impulsive decision. I kind of made it very fast, and it was that summer that I made the decision, basically. But yeah, my England coach, his son was the assistant. He was obviously saying, it's a good pathway to go. America, it's where you need to go for your golf, essentially, because you're playing all year round rather than playing tournaments just through the months of March to the end of August or whatnot. And so that kind of brought up to my ear. And then I got into contact with the coaches here at Charlotte, and they were great. I couldn't fault anything on my time here at Charlotte at all. But at home internationals that year, I was rooming with Matty Lamb. So we played England stuff together, and he was committed to come to Charlotte. I remember we were just having conversations because it was on my mind, and I was like, yeah, I do like the idea of Charlotte, and it would be pretty cool to go. I know people there because obviously Connor Purcell and Mark Boucher were two Irish boys as well who would be joining in the same year as me. So we ended up coming, and going back to the home internationals, I was talking to Matty about it, and I was like, yeah, we'll just do it and see how it goes. Ride it out, see how I feel about it. Because at first I was unsure whether I wanted to make the move over to the States, especially only being 17 years old at the time. I didn't even get to finish my last 2 years in high school. But so I came over, and we come over with a pretty cool group. We had 2 English and 2 Irish in my freshman year. We only had 7 or 8 on the squad, so we made up most of it. So there was no real signs of homesickness or anything, because if anything, we were making the American guys more European.
Exactly. So, I mean, all these Americans now are wearing trousers is what you I mean,
yeah, we got them into trousers. We got them watching soccer, all sorts. They didn't know what hit them.
Oh my gosh! So, what was maybe the transition for you? Obviously, you're going to have a lot of off the golf course transition, whether it's going to a university, and culture shock of kind of going from England to Charlotte, North Carolina, and those are we can pretty much understand what that would be, just making new friends, a new environment, a new concept of what classes would be like, and all of that. But what about maybe your first year or second year of kind of transitioning your game so that you're playing largely Parkland golf? I mean, you're not playing links golf anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. The biggest thing for me, I remember it almost took me a whole year to get used to Bermuda like grass. Not so much the rough, because on links golf you catch flyers and you know how tough it is.
Sure.
But Bermuda, it sits down a bit more in the rough, so it's a bit more of like you have to plan it a little bit more. But just getting pitching around the greens, that was the hardest thing for me to get used to. I would, and I'm sure a few of my, most of my friends hopefully would agree that I had a short game was one of the best parts of my game before I come to America, and it still is now. But for my first year in Charlotte, I was like, how do I do this?
Exactly.
I just don't know, because it felt like if in England, where you pick everything really clean and you can use the leading edge a lot more, if you've done that on Bermuda rough, and you caught it one blade of grass, too heavy.
Just sticks.
Yeah, it was like the ball was going half the distance it would normally go if you chunked it. And you're like, I know it was a chunk, but I didn't think it was that bad.
So you just basically had to learn how to somewhat use the bounce a little bit on your wedges.
It took me a while, but I think I'm used to it now. Now I'm going home. I think I just about got used to it.
Well, I would imagine just being, when I've played in the UK, part of, growing up in South Florida, a lot of it is flying the ball to the hole. A lot of flop shots. Everything around the green is in the air because like you said, with the Bermuda, it's so sticky and it's very hard to judge it. You can't run things up. You can't just do bump and runs. A lot of it is flighting the ball and carrying it. So you almost, I'm guessing, had to recreate your entire short game, not just with the contact, but also with Bermuda greens and things being so soft. You can't play that running shot that I'm guessing you were used to.
Yeah, I had to really train my visual approach to every shot I hit, because from 100 yards, let's say, I could see a slope on a links course or even Parkland courses back home. The greens are a lot more bouncy and they roll out a bit more on the bent greens. But I'd be able to see a slope and I was like, all right, I can play it off that and it can roll down. But over here, it's more just like darts. Like what we see is darts back home. You just throw it straight at the flag and you're good to go.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely missed playing all the fun shots you get to play back home. But I think for your talent and skill levels, I think throwing it at the flags and everything over here definitely taught you a lot more because you're more working on landing zone. And it was pretty easy. It was easy to, once you mastered it, it was easy to get used to being confident enough to doing it, I'd say. But it definitely took a while.
You played all 5 years at Charlotte. Your stroke average of 72.59 is really, it's third all time. I mean, you played in, 133 rounds and 45 tournaments. I mean, you had this really long, illustrious career at Charlotte. What's maybe the biggest change in your game and also maybe your personality that you've experienced since, going to college in the States?
I would say it's a lot to do with maturing as a person along with golf. I'm sure if my coach Cabbage, was listening to this, he'll be the first to tell you we had our times where we butt heads, and he let me know when I wasn't doing the right thing on the golf course. And none of it was really technique or to pulling the shots off. It was all my approach to playing the game, thinking about shots, and routine probably is a key thing for me.
Okay, so give me an example. I think this is interesting because it speaks to the maturation of a young player coming into a college environment, and you have other teammates that are depending on you to play your best because your score is most likely going to count. You have to always assume your score is going to count. And then you have a coach that's holding you accountable for these things. So can you maybe give me an example of something in your freshman or sophomore season that Coach Cabbage said, hey, John, that's not going to work here? That's
what one do I pick?
Okay. Well, I mean, this is only a 4-hour podcast, John. I mean, come on.
Yeah, well, I do remember one time on a golf course that me and a coach laugh about ever since, really. It was at the Jerry Pate in Alabama. And so I was struggling, having a bad day, and one of my teammates was also struggling. But one of the hard things about college golf is you never know where your teammates stand, really.
Right.
Because you don't have a leaderboard to look at or anything like that until after the round. So I was struggling a lot, and as you do every round, every so often, you're struggling around the golf and your head gets down, especially at the time I was 17 years old. So my coach, he comes up to me anyway, and he starts kind of amping me up, trying to get me going. And my immature head was like, oh, well, there's no need. I don't need to be doing that. I'm already so-and-so over.
Right.
I can just get it going for the next round. And he stopped me on the hole right there and then. and he was like, he just told me as it was. He was like, look, no matter what happens, you always have to assume your score is going to count, because one of the boys up ahead, you don't know this, but I know that he's having a terrible day, and your bad day may be better than his terrible day.
Right.
So basically kind of like get your head out your ass and get going.
Yeah, that's a perfect story and a perfect example. I've heard that many, many times, and it's not uncommon. You get in your own head and you think that, well, my day's done. And then you have to remember that, no, there's a team I'm playing on, and someone, also the other thing, you never want to be like, know in your heart that you kind of gave up in the last 3 holes to shoot 79 when you have a teammate who is working their ass off and they shoot 80. And how do you look them in the eye? And yeah, that's a tough one.
Well, I was always appreciative of coach for doing that. Maybe not right at the time. I think he'll agree with that.
Yeah.
But the next round, I think I went on to shoot. I think that was the first round, and the highest score I shot after that was 1 over. I shot like a 3 under and a 1 over or something following. So it was the same day as well. It was 36 holes. I think I shot, I couldn't actually tell you. It was definitely around 80. And then I went out and shot a 68 or 69 in the next round. And I was like, well, it seems like it works. So this guy must know what he's doing.
There you go. That's a nice comeback. Well, we have we were talking this week. I saw you last week in South Carolina. I saw you the week before that in Dallas.
I know you can't get enough of me.
That's exact. I was going to say you must be getting sick of me by now, but. But, you play the Palmetto Amateur, had a nice finish there. I believe it was a 11th or 14th, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
And that brings you into the Palmetto Amateur in Aiken, South Carolina. And what's really funny is both of us did not know we were going to be there until very quickly. I wasn't asked to go cover it until just about 2 days before the tournament started. And you were not originally in the field. So maybe share, how do you go from not really in the field to holding the trophy at the end as the Palmetto Amateur Champion? Tell this story.
So obviously Marido first. That was a great golf course, one of my favorites that we got to play in college. So every opportunity I get to, I go back as regularly as possible to play in events. And it was quite funny. I was planning originally to caddy for my teammate, Cuss Noenby, and it was another teammate, because we were actually playing out at our course, Irish Creek, afterwards, and we ended up playing really good and stuff. And I was like, I'm in the mood for some golf. Like, I'm playing pretty decent. I'm ready to get going. And one of my other teammates, Connor Armstead, he was like, why don't you just call up? They might, well, I'm not saying you'll get in or anything, but you may get in with someone pulling out, or if anyone changes their plans or anything. So that's not a bad idea. So straight after our round of golf, we went to get food. I was joking around with Carson because he was kind of looking forward to me caddying, because I will admit I'm a great caddy.
Okay.
He was looking forward to me caddying, and I was joking around with him, being like, yeah, I'm not caddying. I'm going to enter this tournament. I'm going to see if I'm going to get into this, blah, blah, blah. And at the time, it was only a joke. And then as soon as we left, I was like, I might actually just call them and see what we can do. So I called Brad straight after we had dinner and got speaking to him. And I was in the car with Carson, actually. And it was very funny because he
was there while you're on the call. Oh, so you're on the phone. Idea. Oh my gosh. So you're on the phone with Brad Crane, who is the tournament chairman at the Palmetto. So you're on the phone with Brad in the car with Carson, who thinks you are going to be caddying for him.
Yeah, Carson was trying to mutter things under his breath and everything to try and not let me into the tournament. But no, Brad said he would get in contact with me if anything. He didn't know at the time off the top of his head, but I gave him the details and he got me in, luckily. And yeah, obviously they're two very different golf courses.
Oh my gosh.
Marido and Palmetto are two completely different golf courses, in fact. But I just practiced like I would and had a couple rest days and just got out there and went for it. And luckily I got into the event and then played very good and took home the victory.
Now, you and I spoke, I think, after just about every single round. I know we spoke after this opening round where you shoot a 2-under par 68, which is a really nice start. I think you're probably 3 or 4 back. I know Alex, you were 3 back. Alex Gough shot 65.
5. Yeah.
So you're 3 back. You shoot this real nice opening round. But, we have to talk about the nines. It was a 39 and a 29. So I'm guessing, or not, I'm not guessing, I know for a fact that this is not an uncommon occurrence with you. You've said that you get off to slow or, we can say rather poor starts occasionally in rounds of golf or in tournaments. Do you have any idea what causes that? Is it just you're not focused, you're not focused right out of the gate? What do you think is causing that? For you to have somewhat slow starts in tournaments?
I would probably say I've had the last 2 years of doing the same thing.
Okay.
And it all started at Winsong Farms in Minnesota's event, where I was something like, it was like the worst start I've had in a college tournament. I was 8 over through 5 holes or something. I mean, it was just, I didn't know what had hit me. And I ended up coming back to shooting, I think, maybe 1 over or even for the tournament. So I finished the tournament really good because that track is not an easy track at all.
Okay.
And I do not know what it is. I stay focused. Like, as I said, my routine's a very big thing for me. And my routine's the same on all 18 holes. However many shots of the round I take as well, my routine stays the same. And I mean, I just can't put anything to it. I don't know what it is. It's just kind of got used to it now. But as I was telling my Ben Woodruff, one of my teammates, I told him after the second round in the Palmetto, I was like, I'm probably going to end up winning this event because it's the second tournament of the year that I've had a good first round in the tournament. And the only other one was the Linga Longa college event, which I ended up winning as well. So it seems to me like if I can manage to get the start, I can do pretty good. But yeah, it's just I got to kind of iron it out, and it's something I spoke to my coaches about, and we're going to go iron out as much as we can when I go home now, and hopefully sort out and get going again for the next tournaments.
It's got to be a nerve-wracking thing because it's almost like you are somewhat expecting, if you start out with a bogey on the first hole or on the second hole, instead of just wiping that out, it's just a bogey. I'll get it back on the next one. I'm guessing your head automatically goes to, oh, here we go again. And
I'd be lying if I told you I didn't say them exact words in the first few holes of Palmetto.
Okay.
I remember walking off the 5th hole, and I was the first one on the tee on the 6th, and I'm just watching people hitting from the hole coming up, and I've just literally said to myself, it's like, here we go again. Every single time, it's just the same stuff over and over again. But it's just something that you have to kind of stick to. Like, during the round, I don't think about it really during the round unless it's a really bad start, as it was in the Palmetto, because I'm just thinking about how I'm gonna not what position I'm in, but the shot that I have in front of me.
Sure.
And I was just after the round of golf, I was like, goodness me, I don't know how I've managed to end up having a good first round after that start. But as everyone calls me, I kind of got the nickname in my team in Charlotte as like consistent. I definitely give them a run for their money calling me that last week.
Yeah, well, I think that's what I asked you, during that interview after the first round, Mr. Consistency, because I just, the 39-29. Now you mentioned routine is big with you, about pre-shot routine, but I have to. How important is a PlayStation 4 to your tournament routine?
I mean, there's no point in me going to a tournament if I don't have my PlayStation with me.
Got it.
That's just the note that everyone needs to know. That is just out there. If I don't have my PlayStation, I wouldn't put any money on me for the tournament, put it that way.
Okay, so obviously I've been speaking to some of your teammates, so I will not stop at anything to get additional information for these episodes. How did this start to the point where, have you always been into video games and always just around it? I know Call of Duty is one of your big games, but is this something that you've always been around? Because I would imagine that would probably be the last thing you'd want to do right before a round of golf, just get your eyes glued to a TV screen. It doesn't seem that would be very beneficial. And so how did that start?
Well, I think I may know who you've got your information off, and I think I know what he's going to want me to say in response. So I didn't own a PlayStation coming over here, and I hadn't owned one in college.
Sure.
It was just, we would play like a game of FIFA or something like that, just to every now and then, just as kind of fun. But then Carson, he wasn't playing his PlayStation much, and I had moved into a 2-bedroom with Matt Sharpstein, and he had his Xbox, and which is also a terrible choice. PlayStation is definitely the way forward. But I was like, you're not playing it, so maybe I should just rent it off you for the year. So he was like, okay, yeah, that works for me. I don't play it. So I rented it off him for the year. And without fail, I had to take it to every tournament, because we took it to a few. All joking aside, golf is, when you go somewhere in a team environment, it's pretty okay, but it's a lonely game when you're out traveling and you're in hotels.
Yep.
Unless you're really with like a big group of people, it gets pretty like lonely, and you've got time to kill. So after a round of golf, obviously time to kill after doing homework and stuff, seeing as is in college, I'm sure I have to say that.
Good choice. Well done. Well done.
But so yeah, I'd never play it in the mornings because I wouldn't call myself a morning person. And in college, you have many 5:30 wake up calls, so definitely wasn't a go-to in the morning. But the night before, I'd definitely get home in, play a couple games, drop in, and that's just the way it went.
Yeah, well, it also gets your mind off what's coming up, and you get to kind of clear your head a bit.
Exactly, it's kind of a release, really, to everything that happens on the golf course or around golf.
Makes sense, and yes, and I can neither confirm nor deny that I get my information from Carson on me. I cannot confirm any of that information. But all right, so you pick up this Palmetto victory, and this is, I guess, your last tournament here in the States. You're about ready to head back over to the UK, and that may come as a surprise to people listening, saying, hey, this guy really is someone that, we should be looking out for at the Western Am, or we should be looking at the US Amateur. But you are going to go back to the UK, go back home and work on, playing in amateur events over there. What kind of a summer schedule do you have set up for competition wise over there?
So obviously it's getting towards the end of the English and GB and I kind of summer schedule. So I have the English Amateur next it's pretty much the end of July, start of August. Sure. And then there's the Brabazon Trophy, which I'm hoping to get into, which is the English, the British stroke play, because that's an open event.
Yeah.
So I have them two left, and then I have a couple of Euro Pro tournaments to play in. So I've got 4 decent sized tournaments left for the summer, and then replan for next year. There's lots of things I want to do now I'm out of college, such as tournaments back home or tournaments abroad during the college time that I'd like to play in. So it's pretty exciting, actually, that I get another year of, the plan is another year of amateur golf anyway, for sure.
So that's interesting. We spoke a little bit about that before we started recording and started having this conversation. You are basically, done with college golf. You have no more eligibility. So it's really, the path is to be a, lifelong amateur or to turn professional. And you said you're really in no rush to turn pro. And that's just, truthfully, it's not a common statement that I hear when I talk to collegiate golfers that are coming to the end of their eligibility. With the COVID pandemic, of course, there were some players that were able to decide on whether or not they wanted to take a COVID year and extend their 1 year of eligibility. But for the most part, everyone's like, yep, I'm going to play in this and this, I'll play the USAM and then I'm turned pro, or I'm going to play this and then I turn pro. So, perhaps, because I haven't heard this statement quite a bit. What is kind of your reasoning for stating that you're not in a big rush to turn professional, which I think is great. I'm not questioning you at all. I think it's fantastic. I'm just curious what your thought process is.
For me, I've had a lot of friends and I've seen guys that have turned pro as soon as they can, and quite honestly aren't ready for it. I mean, I'm my own biggest critique.
Okay.
And until I think that I can turn pro and win tournaments to kickstart my career and like drive up the rankings, I'm in no rush to turn. I've got a lot of improving to do before I think that, of course, I go turn pro and play okay in tournaments, but I think for a more consistent level, I've got a lot more to do and a lot more to give in the amateur game. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff that I never got to do, such as men's events, because I came over to America still as a junior.
Right. Okay.
So I never actually got my first year of men's events back home in England. So it would be nice to obviously get through them and travel a bit as well, which will be fun, like 4 tournaments, obviously. But I want a bit more experience behind me before I turn pro. And I mean, I've got great kind of like friends and family and people helping me, supporting me, everything like that. And luckily, unlike many other people who are bouncing them to turn pro straight off the bat, they're all very supportive of my decision and they're going to help me along the way. So I'm pretty lucky with that. And yeah, I just don't want to be one of them guys that gets stuck on a mini tour, as I'm sure no one plans for that.
Right.
But it's a very common occurrence nowadays that people start on a mini tour and just get stuck on it for too long, basically. So that's my plans anyway.
This is it's very interesting because you and I have had many conversations, and I mean, this is really mature.
I know I'm smarter than I look, honestly.
I mean, well, you said that. All jokes aside, I don't hear a lot of that. I hear a lot of, okay, I'm done with college, I'm ready to go make money, without realizing, and it's you have that self-realization of, okay, maybe I'm just not that good yet. And just saying professional and having it next to my name, that doesn't bring me any money. That doesn't bring me any success. Maybe I should actually go see if I can compete on the pro tours, which you're talking about the Euro Pro Tour, and I'm guessing you can probably play in European Challenge Tour events. I'm guessing there's a lot of opportunities over there. Maybe I'll go play as an amateur against these pros and see how I stack up.
Yeah, that's essentially it.
Yeah.
That's what I'd like to do. I'd like to play a few of them as an amateur and see how I stack up against them. And obviously, it's not that I'm not confident in my game. It's just, luckily, the course I grew up on, I actually had, I'd say, 3 guys that weren't playing mini tours. There was 2 of them that were playing Asian Tour. One of the guys played European Tour for a while, Phillips, and they're probably grown up. They've been through their 30s and 40s with me. And they have just bundled me with loads of wisdom to make me seem smart, obviously. But no, the pros at my golf courses growing up have been the biggest influence on me. And one of my best friends, his dad was the old head pro at the course I grew up at. And I'll never forget, used to win tournaments and you'd get to go out, like junior tournaments at the club, and you would get to go out and play a round of golf with him. He was very good to the juniors and starting everything up. And he said to me 2 things that he said to me, which I've kept with me probably for about easily 10 years now. I'm 22, so it was definitely before I was a teenager. He was like, never turn pro just because you want to turn pro. Turn pro when you know you're good enough to be a pro.
Yep.
And he also said, don't have a backup plan as coaching until your playing doesn't work, if it doesn't work, which I have completely agreed with. And obviously, when you get older, you start to think, well, maybe I should start, because back home to teach, you do your PGA, and it's a 2.5-3 year course pretty much.
Sure.
So it takes time, obviously, but I'm not even looking into that as an option until I give it my all in professional golf and try and make the most out of that first of all.
Yeah, you can. I truly believe that if you want to succeed, you have to go into it as if there is no backup plan. I mean, obviously you can, you can find a backup plan. There may be something that is a potential, but if you are focused on the backup plan, you're not focused on the real goal.
Absolutely. I'd say I was a bit of a troublesome, not too troublesome, but not the ideal student in high school, I'd say. And I used to argue with my teachers all the time because they were like, well, you need a backup plan. So, well, I don't, because if I have a backup plan, then I'm not fully invested in my original plan.
There you go.
I may as well just have my backup plan as my original plan if that's what I'm going to make. But I'm sure if I had a conversation with them about it now, we wouldn't argue as much. But
well, it makes sense. It probably doesn't make sense for a 15-year-old to say that, or a 14-year-old, but it does make sense.
Yeah.
Now you mentioned family and friends, and I couldn't help but notice that you do have a younger brother who I have run across, specifically ran across your brother Connor at the 2019 Walker Cup at Liverpool, and I'm just kind of putting two and two together here. He played a Walker Cup, and you haven't played one, and you're thinking about staying amateur for a little while. And 2023, the Walker Cup returns to the UK. It'll be at the Old Course in St. Andrews. I already have plans to be there. Do you have any plans to be there?
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer to that. Obviously, it'd be great to play a Walker Cup. But as I said, it's a huge accomplishment, first of all, to get into a Walker Cup. And then to play at St. Andrews would be even more special than it would be. And I would love to do that. But with the timing and everything, and I'm just going to play it by ear.
Sure.
If I feel like I'm ready to turn pro next year, I'll turn pro and I'll just start my professional career. But if I feel like I have more to offer in amateur golf and I've got a bit more time to wait for the professional life, it's definitely going to be on the cards then. But I'm a very, very laid back and just play everything as it comes kind of guy. So that's obviously, it would be a great bonus, but it's not in my mind whilst playing tournaments, put it that way.
Of course. Well, but it is something that is out there that I find interesting because typically you'd find the you would think that it would occur in reverse. You would play in 19 and Connor would be coming up to maybe play in 21 or 23. What do you remember about that experience? Maybe coming from the older brother. Were you there? Were you watching it, or how? What kind of how much attention did that get just for your family?
It was great. Me and Connor, when we play together, we need a referee out there. It's so competitive. It's insane.
Okay.
But I think that's what's helped us kind of get as good as we are, basically. We've always supported each other, though, when we're playing tournaments. I wasn't there for the Walker Cup because I was over here.
Sure.
But I had pretty much most of it live streamed to me by family because they were all there. Obviously, my family's all Irish. So we had all my Irish family coming over to watch it as well. And obviously I was watching it on TV here. It was great fun to see him, and I think he done a great job. He was I believe the second youngest.
Yes, you are 100% correct.
Was it Justin Rose, the only one before him?
I think you're right.
I think it was, and Justin Rose has had such an incredible amateur career in England. That's a pretty big accomplishment to kind of get, really. And I was extremely proud of him. I know he may hear this, and I've never told him it to his face, and I don't intend on telling him anything like that to his face ever again.
Okay.
But No, we were all proud of him. It was great to watch because obviously one of my teammates, Connor Purcell, was also playing in that. So it was a pretty pumped up time for me because I knew a few of the boys playing, and obviously I knew the other guys playing as well. But I think it was great fun to watch, and proud of them all.
One thing I noticed about your brother is that, you know, a lot of players are wearing visors or are wearing hats, but not your brother, because he is, I mean, you get a big opportunity right here to have some fun with Connor, but he is really proud of that damn hair he's got. I mean, that is a full side of, I mean, he's really proud of it, isn't he?
I've always said to my mom and dad, when I went to America, Connor was like, he was in check. He was in check before I went to America. They would come. I go to America, and he starts getting long hair. He pays more attention to his hair than he did practicing for a while, I think.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But, I think it's pretty funny. I've taught him everything he knows, obviously, in golf.
I mean, there you go, obviously. Come on.
Apart from the hair. That is one thing I'll never I'll never claim that I helped him to do anything to do with that. But, you know, it's his thing. And I will admit, though, coming to America, he cut most of it off coming over to the States.
Because he's going to play at Charlotte. The golf tradition at Charlotte continues because he's
exactly. So he's been here in Charlotte with me for a semester, getting to know everything.
Oh, and now you need to leave. You need to leave town. You can't be around him that much, can you?
Well, my job here is done. I kind of showed him the ropes and just let him go and do his thing now. But I'm sure he, along with the rest of the team, should be excited for the year they're going to have. We had a good year last year. And obviously with the addition of him, he can play some golf. So it'll be good for everyone on the team.
John, fantastic conversation. Knew it would be a fun one. Congrats again on your Palmetto Amateur Championship. Glad I was there to see that and cover it. And I will see you down the road. This will not be the last time our paths cross. I wish you all the best. Safe travels over across the pond. And I appreciate you stopping by the back of the range.
Thanks a lot, Ben.
And there you have it. Special thanks to John Gough for joining me on this episode here at the back of the range. Don't forget, follow along on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Every single episode is available at thebackoftherange.com. And we'll see you next time here at the back of the range.